As you know, my name is Carol Fraser, and I'm the founder of Carol's Organic Kitchen, which really was born from trying to find a solution at a time where my daughter, at the age of 11 at that time, she's 21 now, had suffered a mental breakdown from bullying at school. And I had, at that time, was working for a large US organisation in the city, and she had been admitted to a children's psychiatric unit. Within the first week of being admitted, they wanted to administer antipsychotics, to which I had, refused and insisted on my daughter having organic investigations so that they could look at the root cause, because it was not connected to a known diagnosis. One of the investigations was a lumbar puncture. And what they had discovered from the lumbar puncture was that in an acute stress reaction, my daughter produced a lot of a particular chemical. She had got, a chemical imbalance in her body. And this chemical travelled up the spine and hit the brain, causing her to have a psychotic episode. So, doing a lot of study and research, looking into really what this chemical was that caused this imbalance in her body and why it happened, I found out it was something called anti-GAD. Now, anti-GAD is actually linked to diabetes, but although she wasn't diabetic, she produced a lot of this chemical, as I said, which hit the brain, caused her to have a chemical imbalance, and she'd spent a number of months in a psychiatric unit. She recovered from, slowly, and we had really changed our whole lifestyle around and decided that we were going to try to change our lifestyle holistically by cutting out a lot of chemicals in our diet and what we were using on our bodies as well. Because our skin is our largest organ, and it does absorb what we're putting on in our systems. So it's important to be aware of not only just what we're consuming internally, but what we're actually putting on our skin. So we had changed our diet as well. We'd gone from a carnivore diet to vegetarian. We went raw in the summer, in the months where we were away in France, which was fantastic because it was lovely and warm. And then coming back to a colder climate, we had climatized back to sort of cooked food. But it was one morning in my kitchen 6 years ago, when my daughter stopped me in my tracks when I was just about to make one of my morning omelettes and said, "Mum, why don't we go vegan?" And I was like, perplexed, like, what am I going to eat in the mornings? I love my eggs, I love my omelettes. What else is there? So needless to say, those eggs that day I hadn't touched, and to this date I have remained plant-based. I've studied nutrition. I'm a plant-based nutritionist, and I also provide healthy, plant-based, nutritional foods at nursery for children. I'm implementing more and more vegan, plant-based foods with nutrition in mind. So one of the things I want to talk about is solutions, and that's why we're here today. The name of the event, which is What the Health Next, was really inspired when last year I was running an event in Holland Park, and I had a lady who attended with her mother, and her mother was suffering from diabetes. And she had seen a documentary called What the Health. Does anybody know about this documentary at all? Have you heard about it? Nobody's seen it? You've seen What the Health? Well, this documentary was put out in 2017. And what this documentary did was really, it was a film which critiqued the health impact of meat and dairy consumption. And they also scrutinise and question the practices of leading pharmaceutical organisations. And she was there because after having found me on Instagram, on social media, because she was doing a bit of research and she came up with Carol's Organic Kitchen, she was there looking for a solution. So she'd got all this information. She was, thoughtful about what she had learnt and heard, and she'd come along to find out, well, what can I do next? And hence the title of this workshop, What the Health Next? So what I'm going to do today is to give you some solutions, because I'm going to talk about 3 common ingredients that's contained in our skincare. The possible harm or impact that it can have on our bodies, but I'm also going to provide the natural solutions so that we can go away here today more informed. And at the end, I'm going to ask whether you have any questions that you might like to ask. So the first thing I want to talk about, which most people here may be very familiar with, are parabens. Has anybody heard about parabens in our skincare? Does anybody know what parabens actually are? Because parabens is a chemical that's added to all of our water-based products for our hair care and our body care, and it's used as a preservative. Now, the controversy about parabens are that they are estrogenic. It has a chemical structure which is similar to estrogens. And in the British Medical Journal in 2011, a study was done where they had found 5 different parabens in the breast tissue of 19 out of 20 women had these 5 parabens in the tumour, which was found. Now, it's been some time since I've used conventional products, particularly deodorants. That's bad news for women in particular, because we're applying it under the armpit, which is very close to the lymph nodes of the breast, which is attached to the breast tissue. And this can be a cause of inflammation. What caused me to stop the conventional products for deodorants in particular was one morning where I discovered an app called Think Dirty. I know one of you is aware of it. Has anybody heard of Think Dirty? Has anybody actually used it? So it must have been about 4 or 5 years ago. I was in my bathroom and I was scanning all these products. And at that time, because I did this recently and I didn't find this application, maybe somebody could tell me later whether it still exists, you could actually tell the toxicity level between a scale of 1 to 10, how toxic that particular item is. And this is a well-known brand that I was using as soap. It's also used as deodorants now, as well as body wash products. And they're branching out into other products as well. And it's portrayed as a very pure and simple product. And it rated at a 9 out of 10. And that day I got rid of that product amongst others and decided to research more about natural solutions. Now, the parabens in our skincare is also contained in things like sunscreen. And people might not be aware of that. And you're rubbing that on your skin all the time and it's being absorbed. But there are natural solutions that we can use. So we have all this information, but we want to know, well, what can we do? What can we do to replace parabens in our skincare or look for as a natural alternative? So you can use things like vitamin E. There are essential oils of thyme, oregano, rosemary, tea tree, grapeseed. I use lavender oil as well because that's actually antibacterial, both internally as well as externally. So we have to really consider whether we want to be putting these things on our skin and how often maybe we're even using them, to really get an in-depth understanding of what their possible causes could be in the future using these products. Now, the second ingredient that I want to talk about is something called sodium lauryl sulfate. Has anybody heard of sodium lauryl sulfate? It's otherwise known as SLS. I know some people know their homework here. SLS. Now, SLS is something, it's an agent, a chemical compound that's used to create the foaming action in things like our shampoos, our facial washes, our body washes, bubble bath, and even baby bath. Now, the thing about SLS is that there is some controversy over it in terms of possible irritation or allergic reaction, because it's a drying and harsh ingredient. And it can also cause breakouts on the skin. But not only that, it can also impact on our environment, because our mammals that die and wash up on our beaches have been found to contain SLS in their bodies. And that just tells you the scale of the amount of SLS that we're using that's going through our water system and affecting our plant life. Also with SLS, there was in the British Journal of Dermatology, where it was reported from researchers from Bath University that on healthy skins, SLS can actually thin our skins in 4 weeks. And Professor Richard Guy at Bath University found that SLS in aqueous cream made the condition worse. And this is prescribed for eczema, so it really doesn't make sense. So again, let's think about the natural solutions that we can be using to replace SLS in our skincare, which is the foaming agent, which are things like cast iron soap, soapwort, which is a perennial flower, and also something called African black soap. Is anybody familiar with African black soap at all? And you've used it? Now, African black soap is handmade in West Africa using a centuries-old extraction process of natural ingredients. Now, the reason I'm talking about African black soap, because there's been studies across dermatology clinics in a survey of 100 patients where they've been suffering from various skincare issues. Some of them including razor bumps, which cause scarring on the skin, dermatitis, uneven skin tone, eczema, psoriasis, skin irritations, dryness. And what they found overall, 70% of these people that were using African black soap in the survey had positive results. And it may be something that you'll be hearing more about. I do have some of it here today. I think I quickly this morning thought to myself, I better cut up some of the soap and actually let people have some of it today. I've just cut up small pieces that you can purchase for £2, but you do have some free items to take away with you. And I've been told off many times for not doing this, which is why I put the soap together, as well as some other products that you can purchase on very special offer today of a Caribbean clay mask with 92 minerals, as well as my lemongrass body balm, which is very moisturising, and I'm going to be talking about my eucalyptus as well, which is included in there, and I've thrown in a free cognac sponge as well, and that's just £10. If anybody wants to, there's no pressure to buy anything, but I'm told off all the time when I run workshops, I must have products available because some people just want to buy a few things to try them out. And today is the day of my natural skincare launch. I've had all my products approved and I'm going to be launching some teas, and I hope you've enjoyed some of those as well today. But I'm going to move on to the third ingredient, which are actually two, but one's derived from the other, and it's called PETRO ingredients. Now, PETRO ingredients are petroleum jelly and mineral oil. Mineral oil is a distillation of petroleum jelly, and I'm sure many of you may be familiar with petroleum jelly. We've even used it as an emollient, a barrier for children's skin, for nappy rash. Now, it's used in our hair care and our baby care, our skin care, but petroleum jelly clogs the pores, doesn't allow the skin to breathe, and it can cause a breakout of acne. So obviously very bad news for people who are already suffering with acne, but it can be the cause of acne as well, because it's quite heavy and it's thick and it doesn't easily absorb. And people with sensitive skin should avoid it. But mineral oil, it doesn't absorb into the skin. It's like a cling wrap on the skin, and it can be a sun reflector, so we could be prone to skin burns. But it sounds innocent, mineral oil. But do we know what mineral oil is? But thinking about where petroleum jelly comes from, because this is a distillation of it, petroleum jelly actually accumulates on oil rigs where they're mining oils. You're nodding, you know much about it. And then it's purified, packaged, and put into our products. So it's something that has been, really gathered as excess waste on an oil rig, and then packaged and given to us as a product to use on our skins. I'm going to read from a study called PubMed, which I refer to quite a lot for references on medical studies. Now, PubMed, I'm going to read them, quote them word for word here. In a 2011 study, reported that mineral oil contamination, researchers have stated that there is strong evidence that mineral oil is the greatest contaminant of the human body. That's quite a big statement to make. And considering it sounds so innocent. And what brands will tell us is that there are small amounts that are safe, but we're using this every single day. And there are studies to show that there is harm. So we really need to think deeply about what we're using. They went on to remove fat specimens from women who underwent caesarean sections and collected milk samples from women after delivery. They found that both fat milk samples were contaminated with mineral oil and stated that these compounds likely accumulated over time. So going back to what I'm saying about the use of these products over time, from repeated exposure. Cosmetics might be a relevant source of contamination. And this is where petroleum jelly is used as well, in our skin, in our makeup and our lip balms as well. Now, these ingredients are used a lot in our skincare products, including body care. So the natural alternatives, which are absolutely amazing and yummy in comparison to waste from an oil rig that's cleaned up, packaged and sold back to us, are alternatives like cocoa butter, shea butter, mango butter, and also we can use coconut oil as an emollient, as a replacement for mineral oil too. Now, I'm going to talk to you about a couple of stories where people have had amazing results using natural skincare. But one thing I will say is not everything natural is equal. People claiming to have, medicinal teas or herbs, skincare creams, lotions and potions, you need to find out whether these products have been approved. It's important because there are certain formulations that need to be used to be deemed safe. So I'll just leave you with that. And I'd like to ask you whether you have any questions today. Right, well, I'm going to move on to the next stage, which is to tell you a couple of stories here today and shed some light on this particular picture here. Now, this is a picture of a young boy at the age of 10. This is probably 18 months ago now. Now, this particular cream, which I blended with shea butter, coconut oil, and I added lavender and later on frankincense for its healing and repair properties as essential oils to this cream when my daughter suffered terribly from eczema. Now, she had, and in fact, that's my daughter, Christina. And she's the inspiration behind Carol's Organic Kitchen. And we've been on an amazing journey. Christina, I want you to come up here for a moment. Christina's doing so much better, and seeing her coming leaps and bounds. This is why I do what I do. I'm passionate about what I do, and I share what I do. And she's a living testimony. I don't want to cry. She's a living testimony of what changing our lifestyle to holistic lifestyle, changing our diet in terms of even mental health, because it's not something you can see. It's not like a broken arm or leg. And my daughter she's been an amazing driving force behind Carol's Organic Kitchen. She's a talented videographer, photographer, filmmaker. And if it wasn't for her and my son, who really helped me to build Carol's Organic Kitchen as a business to share this with you, I probably wouldn't be standing here today. So thank you to both of Anthony and Christina. I've lost my thread. What was I saying? So Caleb, let's go back to this. Is a boy called Caleb. And his mother came to me for this cream. Christina had really like a dark neck, dry, scaly, patchy back, almost leathery looking. She had dark marks in her flexures within her arms and the backs of her knees. Very dry, sore, cracked, scaly skin. And on using the cream, and of course it's incorporated with eating clean. There's not one to, so when you're eating clean, these things can actually help progress the positive results. And this cream, and many people who are not even eating clean, don't ask me how it's happening, but it is happening for them as well, with eczema, psoriasis, dry skin conditions, uneven skin tone, operational scars, somebody reported back to me, and she hadn't even asked for the cream for that. But for my daughter, it had begun to take away all those unsightly marks from her body, which was quite amazing. But not only that, what was really, really quite remarkable was that she stopped itching, because the soothing properties of, I think it's a combination of these ingredients, particularly the lavender, which is soothing, stopped her from scratching and causing that cycle of breaking the skin, which then caused infection, which caused more flare-ups. So she was able to heal and overcome eczema altogether. And a mother came to me asking for this particular cream for her dry, hard hands. We were having a conversation about what this cream has done. And her son, 10-year-old boy called Caleb, had overheard our conversation and thought to himself that perhaps this could solve his problem too. But I want you to hear Caleb's story in his own words, and I'm going to play you the video of Caleb's story now. So hi Caleb.
Hello.
Caleb, You actually use one of my handmade body butters, and can you tell everyone why you wanted to use it specifically? Because I mentioned to your mother that it was quite a good cream for sort of conditioning the skin, and it also fades marks, but you had quite a significant prominent mark on your neck which was like highly pigmented, had a very pinkish tone to it, and you used it. And can you talk about the cream and how it helped you and why you wanted to use it?
And to start off, the main reason why I wanted to use it is so, you know, when I play football, like in the summer, you know, I just wear a top and the thing, and when I'm running, people come up to me and ask, what's that on your neck? And I have to say it's like a rash, and I kind of felt conscious about it. So then I thought maybe this will take away the rash, or the ringworm. So I took it, and then it's worked wonders for me. So yeah.
So let's just take a look at the back of your neck, because I have some pictures and I just want to show people exactly what it actually has done, because I have a before picture, but if I could just turn you around, if you don't mind. Thank you, my love. And look, it's gone completely. I can't even tell you what side it was on. Can you point out where it was?
Yeah.
There.
Mm-hmm. I can feel
And
the left finger when it left. But yeah, it's completely gone. You can feel it, but you can't see it.
No, you can't. You cannot see it at all. The mark has gone completely. So Caleb.
And it was growing up into his hairline.
So your mother said it was going up into your hairline as well. How long did you use my cream for before it started to disappear?
For like a couple of days. It wasn't a week, but like a couple of days.
And how long before it completely disappeared?
Like on the 4th to 5th day.
On the 4th to 5th day, it completely disappeared.
Yeah.
And I had to come over to your mum's to see for myself, because I couldn't believe it. So I know you're extremely happy. Your mum's told me that you're feeling a lot more happier about it, and I'm pleased for you as well. Thank you very much, Caleb. Thank you for talking to me. Have a great day, okay?
You too.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Such a lovely boy, Caleb is. And he actually lives locally in White City. And as I said, I run workshops. The mother heard about my cream and she wanted it for her hands. And this is the result. And I was so pleased for him, because he would cover it up when he was playing football. People would ask him all the time, well, what it was. And he was very self-conscious, only 10 years old. So you can imagine how delighted I was for him. But that's not all. This cream, which I've launched and I've had approved, I've named Dermazeam, purely because of its medicinal properties and what it's doing. But there's also something else that's taken me by surprise, and this is my handmade eucalyptus oil. And I harvest the leaves from a tree at the bottom of my garden, and I make this amazing eucalyptus oil. And I was making it because people might know it's for decongestants, colds, a bit like Vicks, which has got probably petroleum jelly in it, but natural. And it was able to, you know, remove mucus and help with colds and coughs on the lungs when you rub it into the skin, chest and the back. And I started to discover amazing things about this oil, because other people wanted to use this oil, but then they started using it on their bodies. And people with arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, any type of inflammation, joint pain, and it's also great for muscle pain and quick recovery after exercise, to use the oil. And a lady uses it on her husband as well, when he's, you know, playing tennis or sports or gardening. But what is really remarkable, and I haven't worked this out, and I always dig and dig, and I will get to the bottom of it. I'll speak to some of the experts that I do know, but it also supports sciatica. And sciatica is a nerve pain, it's not a muscle pain. And the first time I discovered was about sciatica and eucalyptus oil being something that can actually support and help is that when my father was unable to even do his shoelaces up because he had the sciatica would shoot up and down his legs and in his back, and he wasn't even able to bend. And I thought, well, let's give him some of the eucalyptus oil. Maybe it could help, because I know that cinnamon oil is very good in terms of muscle pain, joint pain. It warms the system and it helps to reduce inflammation. So I thought, well, this reduces inflammation. Let's see. It was about, 2-3 weeks later, after having a conversation with my father, that he perhaps was going to give up driving, and how horrible he felt with this deliberating condition. He drives up to my home in a sporty red new car. I couldn't believe it. I had to tell my son, look at Granddad. And my stepmother can't get in the car and she's cursing all the time. It's his car, let him, he's obviously now thought, well, he couldn't have it now. Now he can have this great car. And my neighbour as well, who, on chatting to her, suffers with sciatica, I offered it to her and thought, well, maybe it might work for her too. And it does. And I make this oil for her all the time. She's recently had a fall and her foot's swollen, and there are herbs and this oil that I'm going to give to her again. But most recently, I have a lady who came to me about a recently diagnosed condition of rheumatoid arthritis. Hello, Cheryl. And she had come to me to ask whether there was something I could recommend. And that was the first thing that I had thought of. On using the oil, she had this to say, and I want to play her story again in her own words.
I've been suffering for a long time, having pain. Usually my wrists would swell, my feet, my fingers, and I couldn't hardly do anything, hold heavy things. I have been diagnosed with inflammation in my blood and having arthritis. I have to say I was lucky. By the time I was diagnosed, I met Carol and I talked through my symptoms with her. Then she introduced me with the oil that she makes herself, and I was thrilled to use the oil because I use it every day. I even bring it at work with me, so every time I wash my hands, I just apply the oil again and again. And within a month, I could see the difference, because suddenly one morning I came and I just said, Carol, I had to share something with you. Walking from home to the station, and I was going uphill, and I could see something different about myself, and I couldn't figure out what it is. And then I remembered I don't have my pain in my calf anymore, and I was just walking like I used to before. And also my fingers got better. It's not that painful. And since then, I've recommended the oil to so many of my relatives and friends, even my husband. If he has pain, I say, come on, let's apply this oil. And it does work, because also I want to prove it to other friends and families that, it's something so natural, and you don't have to go to eating tablets or putting things in your body, but it can be done with natural herbs and all, and within the nature. There's so many things that can heal ourselves within the nature. And I'll be using it again and again. So thank you to Carol.
Well, thank you to Mother Nature, I think. And this is Shandia Chua. She's the deputy manager at Harmony Neighbourhood Nursery, which is a local private nursery where I'm head chef. And Shandia is a vegetarian. And when she'd first come to me about her problem, we reviewed her diet and we cut out dairy. We cut out starchy foods like white rice, conventional wheat. And she embarked on an alkaline diet because we need to detox, as you were saying, to obviously accelerate the healing process. So there is an element of clean eating going on, as well as her using the oil as well. And before she was even eating clean, she was getting results, but it's got better and better. And that's the result of having used the eucalyptus oil that I make in my garden. from my garden, in my kitchen, Carol's Organic Kitchen. Everything's made there. So that leads me on to the next part of this workshop, where we're going to look at these natural solutions as to how we can make our own natural products. So I'm going to do a demonstration where I'm going to show you how you can make your own natural products at home.